Welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Podcast, hosted by CRM technology and sales process expert Christopher Smith, talking with sales leaders that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Listen to find out how the best of the best achieve success with their team and CRM technology. And remember, unless you are the lead dog, the view never changes.
Welcome to Sales Lead Dog. Today on this episode, I have Jeff Fallis of GoFormz. Jeff is the Senior Director, Head of Sales and Customer Success at GoFormz. Jeff, welcome to Sales Lead Dog.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me.
It's really good to have you here, Jeff. Jeff, tell me a little bit about your current role and GoFormz.
Yeah, appreciate it. So as you mentioned, I'm the Head of Sales and Customer Success. GoFormz is a digital forms data capture company. So we're focused on digital transformation across all different sizes size of organizations, SMB to enterprise. We have a SaaS-based solution that we have customers utilizing all over the world. Ranging from Turner Construction to the Ohio Department of Transportation to Baker Hughes, you name it. So some of the main verticals and markets that we focus on are construction, manufacturing, retail, a lot of field service work that we're currently utilizing that are utilizing GoFormz in that capacity.
That's really cool. I love that you mentioned digital transformation. That's a huge topic for so many companies.
Yeah, it really is. You'd be surprised how many enterprise companies are still kind of living in the 1990s, right? So it's been a big topic, and for the time that I've been at GoFormz, had some really great interaction with individuals who are looking at kind of the wave of the future, customers that are have initiatives around kind of the worker of the future, right? So it's been pretty cool to be a part of and kind of see what's happening in the space.
That's cool. So when you look back over your career, Jeff, what are the three things that have really driven and contributed to your success?
I would say number one, mentorship. I've been really fortunate throughout my career to have a few really strong mentors, individuals who I've formed really good friendships with and relationships with that have been colleagues or maybe former bosses. Individuals that I've learned a ton from along the way. I would say the other one would be just kind of as I've gone through my career and kind of how I've gone about it is I've always kind of had the mentality of just never comparing myself right to anybody and kind of just trying to carve out my own path. Being a little bit trying to be as unique as possible in my own way, but also being a sponge, taking just intangibles and little snippets from everybody I've worked with, right, including those mentors, and kind of creating my own thing. So that certainly has been huge for me. And I think last but not least, just work ethic. Kind of my upbringing and just kind of it was always instilled in me early on. The harder you work, the luckier you get. So just kind of carrying that throughout my career, and just trying to work harder than the next guy is really something that I firmly believe in, and I think there's something to be said about that.
Did that come from your parents?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, my dad for sure. He was a big influence for me in my life, and just kind of seeing him and kind of how he went about it. There was a lot that I learned from him for sure that I still use today, right?
So when you were growing up, did you want to be the Senior Director, Head of Sales and Customer Success? Was that your dream?
No, it's great. Yeah, right. Not the first person to ask me that. No, actually, I want to be like my dad. I want to be an attorney, right?
Really?
Ironically,
Yeah.
I almost went down that path. Actually, when I was coming out of college, was pretty close to pursuing that. I had a really great mentor in college. I was a student athlete. I played football and got pretty close with our athletic director there, and he kind of started steering me towards athletics, and that's a direction that I was headed. And it's kind of like I've talked to a lot of people about this, right? Sales is something you kind of fall into, right? Something that just naturally you gravitate towards. So when I was finishing up school, kind of took a good hard look in the mirror and tried to figure out what the heck I wanted to do. I grew up back in the Midwest, and then decided, I think I want to move west. I want to, kind of explore a different part of the world, a different part of the country. And I took a job actually with the Arizona Phoenix Coyotes as an NHL hockey team.
Wow.
Selling tickets, right? So I always say, if you can sell hockey tickets in the desert, you can sell anything. Right. And so I took this job, first sales gig, and it's kind of just led me towards the path of sales, and here I am.
That's wild. Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you can sell
Yeah.
hockey tickets in Arizona, you're doing pretty well.
Totally. Yeah. Ironically, the team just moved to
Oh, I know.
Utah. So
Yeah.
no longer
Apparently
there.
they missed you selling tickets, I'm
Yeah, I
guessing.
think so. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then from there, I just, it was, 2007 going on 2008. Obviously the tech world was really booming. And being in Arizona, I decided, I don't know if I like the heat. So I decided to move to San Diego, and I took a job with a tech company here, and got my feet wet, and started to dive into tech sales. And that's really kind of where I launched my tech sales career,
Yeah,
with that role. Yeah.
that's pretty cool. What were the lessons
Yeah.
that you learned in those early roles that you still draw upon today?
There's a lot, trust me. There's definitely, when you're young, you're thinking about, you think you know everything, you don't, right? You think you kind of got everything figured out. There's definitely something to be said about that, right? As you get older. I think just learning to adapt, being adaptable, and also understanding, that you don't know everything. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's very true when people say that. There's definitely times where you reflect quite a bit on your career and you look back. But I think for the most part, I was very fortunate that, again, I had some pretty great mentors early on who kept me on the right path and who I learned a lot from.
that's great. That's great. So what drove you into leadership, that first role as a sales leader?
It's kind of a natural thing, to be honest with you. I had success as a individual contributor early on. It's something that I think a lot of people probably go back and forth with. To be honest with you, do I like kind of maintaining my own, I think, schedule in my own world and that sort of thing? Do I like controlling my own destiny and keeping control of that, or do I like working with people, right? And do I like that kind of coaching aspect of it? And so, for me, having that sports background, I think that was a natural thing for me. Had some awesome coaches, when I was playing, and a few that really made a huge impression on me. And I think that's kind of always where what I draw from,
Mhm.
especially now today, right? As my career goes on, and the pressure gets more, and the teams get bigger, and there's a lot of things, right? I always kind of draw from that coaching mentality, of getting everybody to kind of rally around, and work together, and for one common goal, right?
Yep. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who's doing that back and forth as you described it, trying to figure out should I or shouldn't I? What advice
Mhm.
do you have for them?
I think everybody's different. I think, again, it's, do you, if you decide to go down that path, you got to be unselfish.
Mhm.
You got to put the people first, because those are the people that really are making things happen. To be honest with you, so If you have that mindset, if you have that mentality, if you're able to do that, then, I think that, the leadership is something that, it can be very rewarding, to be honest with you. It can be something that you see your team seeing success, and you see the things that they're doing and applying the things that you're teaching them, right? Or they're absorbing from you. And that is the best thing, I think the best compliment you can have, right?
Yeah.
When those things happen.
Yeah. So you have to have a shift in mindset from an individual contributor to now I'm leader, I'm responsible for a team. Was that a difficult transition for you, or did you find that to be relatively easy?
It's definitely a transition. It's definitely a transition, no doubt, right? Because not everybody thinks that way, right? So, and especially when you're leading a team, you got all sorts of different personalities.
Yeah.
So I always say, to people who I have spoken with or who might be considering management or who are interested in management, right? The first thing you got to think about is, right, the individual and how the individuals make up the collection of the team, right? So how do you manage that individual to their strengths, weaknesses, and then how does that, I think, gel, right? How do those personalities, how do those mindsets all gel to make a team, a makeup of a team that all are obviously trying to achieve a goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
What was the hardest lesson you had to learn as a leader?
Um, Sometimes I think you're hesitant in maybe bringing bad news, right?
Mm.
And I think probably one of the things I think quite often about is the last was it been 4 or 5 years, right? When COVID hit, that was probably the hardest part of my career and a lot of people's, just general in life, right? And you're going through this, just everything that's happening around you. And, unfortunately, you have to think about the personal side of things, right? So, how people are impacted and how people are affected from a professional and personal level, and just navigating that. So, there's experiences that, like that give you pause and that you think about, because there is a personal side to this, right? And I always tell people that this is a job, right? At the end of the day, there's things on the outside of this, and there's life, right? So you got to find that balance, find kind of the areas to disconnect, because life goes on, right? And there's lots of things that happen outside of just work.
Yeah. So you've mentioned sports a few times as we've been talking. How have your experience as a young man playing sports? How has that influenced your style as a leader and just developing how you interact and lead your team?
Yeah, I think the way I go about it, the way I build teams, the way I assess, right? It's everybody plays a role. It's kind of like, when you look at your infield, who's your shortstop, who's your first baseman, right? Who's your leader, who's your catcher, right? So you kind of look at those personalities and you look at each individual and how they, can impact, positive or negative. And again, like, there's something to be said about that, right? When you use those types of analogy, I've got a team right now. I kind of, part of them I call the starting five, right? So I always kind of use analogies around, sports, because I think there is such a strong correlation between sales, business, and sports, right? And so, when you're tasked with a goal, right, winning a game, you got a rival or you got whatever, there's a mindset to this. And that mindset is staying focused on the objective. That's staying balanced. Don't be afraid to fail, because if you go out there and you play the game afraid to fail, you're going to fail, right? It's all in your head. So, and then there's also kind of the preparation aspect to it as well. So, when you think about it, there's practice. You're constantly practicing your craft, right, to get better. There's repetition that goes into it. So consistency is key, and in sports and in sales and business. And I think a lot of those concepts go hand in hand. And those are things that, I definitely, focus in on, and, continue to talk to, my team about, and, teams that I've managed in the past.
Yeah. It's, you look at sports and the term the GOAT, behind the GOAT is just countless hours of hard work. Kobe, LeBron, Tom Brady, the list goes on and on and on. Those guys work their tails off to get good at what they do, to not just good, to be great and truly become the GOATs.
Oh, no question. Absolutely. It's always like, what is that saying? The guy, behind you is working harder as the next guy, or whatever. I can't remember
Yeah.
the saying, but there's that saying that, the next guy's always working just as hard. Right.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely true. Like, you mentioned those names, but, it goes hand in hand with, your ability, to really stay focused and to stay disciplined,
Yeah.
right, is ultimately going to be the result of your success. And, sales, it's just a constant thing, right? We're about to end our quarter, and the next one starts right after that. There's no pause, right? There's
Right.
no day off.
Yeah.
It's just a constant. So being able to have that mindset and being able to go into it and knowing, like, are you driven that way? Does that motivate
Yeah.
you? Are you, that there's, I think that is a result of very successful athletes and
Yeah.
salespeople and business people, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Every day's a Super Bowl, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't always win. You can't win every game. You can't win every sale. Failures, it's a huge part of the life of anyone who's involved in sales. How do you leverage failure as a leader?
There's always something to be learned from failure and success. I think the key to anything is, when you go through your process and you reflect, on maybe a lost deal or a lost opportunity. If you're not applying it to the next one, if you're not applying, hey, maybe I can try something different, or maybe there's something I missed, right? Maybe there's a question I just didn't ask, things like that. Then you're not getting better. You're not evolving.
Right.
If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you keep losing, well, there's a reason, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you got to learn from those losses, just as much as you're celebrating the wins.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your favorite thing about being a sales leader?
Well, I would say the rush, the rush of winning, or the rush of, um, you know, working in a team atmosphere, because that's what it takes,
Right.
right? There's that camaraderie aspect to it. It's kind of like winning a game, everything you've done leading up to it, in preparation, everything you've done, up until that point, and when you finally, get that win, there's no better feeling than that, because you've done your job, right? And, if you can take that to the next one and the next one, that's a pretty cool thing, right? And I think, again, when you look at yourself and you look at your team, it's important to understand those motivations, like what's motivating you. I don't think everybody sits there and says, I'm going to be in sales, like I said before, right? It's
Right.
not something, a lot of people set out to do for a living. They kind of just gradually fall into it. But I think sales has evolved so much over time, especially in the B2B world, right? There's a lot of noise out there. There's, a lot of things in terms of offerings and, companies, right, that come in and out, startups, etc. But I think the one thing that stays consistent are people and relationships, and, it's just having a conversation. just like you and I are right now. It's,
Yeah.
they're buying from you, right? It's that kind of one-on-one thing that almost always happens at some point during the sales cycle that ultimately gets them, that individual, that buyer, to the point to say, yeah, let's do this. So, your ability to lead them to that and guide them along the way and create trust, there's no better feeling than that. And I think that's one of the things I want to continue to do it.
Yep. Competition's a big part of sports, is a big part of sales. How do you assess when you're building your team how competitive a prospect, candidate is, and where they're going to fit, what role they're going to play in their team in relation to that competitive spirit that they need to have?
Yeah, I mean, I always want to know, a little bit more about them and their background, and I think adversity is a key to that.
Mm.
Tell me a story about how you overcame adversity with something that something that you failed at, right? That you learned from, because that's a part of it. You want to know how they handle that. Situational things that that they've had to overcome or they've had to go through that that they're going to experience in a sales role, no question about it. How do they keep a level head? How do they stay composed? Things like that. I think that's definitely something that I try to hone in on, from a candidate, potential hire standpoint.
Yeah. So now in your role, shifting topics here a little bit, you have sales, but you also have customer success. Um, it's not uncommon for a lot of organizations where the sales team, hey, we're selling, we sold it, now we won the deal. It's now you got to deliver, and it's almost an over the wall mentality.
Yeah.
How do you manage that in your role to where not only you're responsible for selling, but you're also responsible for delivery and making sure that customer's happy long term?
Yeah, the sale never ends. That's what I tell the team. It's an ongoing thing, and it's obviously somewhat of a different approach and different conversations, but you should be constantly selling yourself, your team, your products. They've invested in you, they've invested in the product. You want to make sure that it's worthwhile. So, huge believer in that customer success mentality, to ensure that onboarding and certain aspects of what I call the customer journey, the first 3, 6, 9, 12 months, are going smoothly. They're getting out of it what they expected. Setting expectations accordingly is certainly key there, because once you get that signature and once everything starts right, you're on to the whether or not you're going to renew or not, right? So are you going to secure that renewal? And I think statistics might show that renewal decision is made within the first 3 months, right? So whether or not that experience that they have with your product, with your team, with your services, that's a huge reflection on whether or not you're going to retain that business or not.
No, that's really great. I love that first 90 days. I'm a big believer in that the handoff from sales to success. It's you nailed it when you said selling never stops. That it's like we want customers for life. You spend so much money to get a customer, so much time and effort to not really, and that's just this, hopefully this much of the relationship, 20%, 80% of it, hopefully is, a long-term relationship. So you got to put in the effort and have that focus. Otherwise, like, what's the point, right? You're always starting from
Right.
zero. Every quarter you're
Oh, for
starting
sure.
new.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Yeah. It's probably, just as hard, if not harder, to retain a customer than it is to get
Yeah.
a new customer. Right.
Yeah.
So the investment that we've made at GoFormz, in our customer success team, our support team, that definitely is something we're big believers in, and we'll continue to invest there, to ensure that our customers are getting the most out of what they intended to do.
Did you have any trepidation about taking on that responsibility in this role?
None, no. none whatsoever, because I'm a huge believer in that cohesion between sales and support. I talk to the team quite often about what I call the feedback loop, right? What I learned early on when I first, got into leadership is that you got to sell as much internally as you do externally. And for me, it's always been about establishing relationships across departments. So, uh, you know, getting to know what a day in the life of our engineers are and our product team and what they're going through and their challenges. Getting to know, and having a direct line and strong relationship with our marketing team. Sometimes you have that, a little bit of, contentious relationship there, which is natural. But as long as it's healthy and as long as, there's solid communication and a strong understanding of what each one is going through, I think that, that's the key, right?
Mhm.
So for me, taking on, customer success and support, it just brings that together very naturally, right? Because support understands, the things that we're doing on the sales side and the goals that we have, and vice versa. And sales, understands what support is going through, because as many people know, that can be a thankless job. They're on the front lines, they're taking the brunt of all the issues and the problems. And so I think if there's really good dialogue there, then you create this team camaraderie, you create this relationship internally, that, it goes a long way. And the same goes for, all the other departments, understanding that as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Do you have any issues with early members or new members to your team, getting them to adopt that mentality, that 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 you really truly have that unification between sales and customer success? Has that been an issue at all for you guys?
I think it's actually been very well received. I think people, you know, um, really gravitate towards that. I think that they, sometimes you can be working in silos. Sometimes you can be
Yeah.
working in a box, right? So, from my experience, at least from my perspective, what I've seen so far, I think people have welcomed that,
Yeah.
positively.
Do you leverage your customer success team as part of your selling process?
Absolutely, it's a huge talking point. Our support team, the resources that we tie to our sales cycles, and there's a team selling aspect to this. Again, we're selling our company, we're selling our people, and there's credibility that goes into that, right? So no question about it, that's a big selling talking point for us, when we're talking to prospective buyers.
I'm surprised at the number of companies that don't do that. That because you think about it, it's like success is going to own that relationship. They're, like you said, they're on the front lines with that customer for so long.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't you say, like, look at how great they are? You're going to love our team, you know?
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, and from my teams, the way I have it set up here at GoFormz, our salespeople stay involved. They're still involved. They're not going anywhere, right? So
No.
we've got a little bit of a hybrid model from our that's built into our sales team, right? They're focused on new business, but as well as account management, right? So they're managing a book of business, and then we've got a customer success team behind them, underneath them, that is also helping support that to alleviate some of that bandwidth. So it's working, and we'll continue to evolve that and build off of that. I think we've had some really good feedback from the team on ways to improve, and I think it goes a long way.
Oh, I bet that has to be key. Knowing, and for a customer, that has to be key for them too, knowing that, hey, you're not just selling me and you're leaving. You're going to be the person I call if I have a problem.
Sure,
That's got to be huge.
absolutely, yeah. We have people all the time in our meetings that you know um, have had horrible experiences with other companies, in that similar capacity where, oh, you guys are just going to, pass me off to the next person sort of thing. And that's not my philosophy. That's not our philosophy. We certainly want to maintain that relationship because that's what's got us here in the first place. We understand that, right? And our biggest initiative is how do we grow this relationship? What can we do with you to help you achieve maybe some goals that are coming down, the pipe internally. So having that dialogue and that familiarity is huge when it comes to growth and when it comes to growing your existing accounts and retaining them.
Yeah. CRM, do you love it or do you hate it?
It depends on the day. It's a necessary evil sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I've had good experiences and not so great experiences. Since I've been around as long as I have, I guess I've seen quite a few of them.
Yeah.
It's the source of truth. There's no question about that. I got a saying here that if it's not in CRM, it didn't happen. So, there's definitely a lot of benefits. There's no question about it. But it's about, getting people to buy in, having consistency and kind of the process in place that's defined, in order for you to get the most out of it.
Yeah. Is that the toughest thing for you when it comes to CRM, having the processes around it, or is it adoption, or is it data? Usually I hear a bunch of different things when I engage with a client in terms of what their struggles are. What's your biggest struggle?
Yeah, I would say it's a mix between, the data aspect for sure, trusting that data, knowing that data is accurate and up to date. There's no question. But that also kind of goes hand in hand with getting people to buy in, right? And utilizing it in the capacity that obviously, leads you to the data conversation.
Yeah. What's your why? Do you have a clear why on when it comes to CRM that, when you're having that conversation with that one person who's just like, you're constantly like, dude, I need your stuff in CRM. Do you have a why that you tell them about?
Yeah. I think I just said it. It's, if it's not in there, it didn't happen. Right. And that again, right. When you got goals in front of you, right? Sometimes you're not having, the easiest of conversations, or you're trying to figure out where you're going next. Yeah, absolutely. It's a must. Like I said, it's somewhat of that necessary evil, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Try not to make it too tedious or too constricting, right? Because everybody operates differently. But at the same time, it's definitely something that you rely on every single day. And to be honest, you're probably staring at every single day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like, if you're in sales, you're in Outlook and you're in CRM, like that's
100%.
pretty much it. And
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it's like, I say this all the time. People that have listened to episodes of Sales Lead Dog have heard me say this many times, that CRM is there to enable the sales team. It's not there to be that 1,000-pound anchor behind them, dragging behind them, slowing them down. And that's the toughest thing, I think, with many companies is finding that alignment to truly help, to truly empower and enable the sales team, and make it that tool that's helping them truly succeed in their role. Can't do the job for them, no way, but it should definitely be helping them.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love the word alignment, because that's really what it's doing. Right? No question.
Yeah, for sure. Jeff, I really appreciate you coming on Sales Lead Dog and chatting with me. If people want to reach out, connect with you, if they want to learn more about GoFormz, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you can visit our website, GoFormz.com. And, as far as myself, hit me up on LinkedIn. Always open, to talking shop or, meeting new people and networking for sure.
Awesome. So if you don't if you didn't get that, just check out our show notes. You can get the show notes for this episode at impellercrm.com/sales lead dog, where you'll find not only this episode, but all the 100+ episodes of Sales Lead Dog. So be sure to check those out and subscribe so you can get all the future episodes. Jeff, thank you for coming on Sales Lead Dog, and welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Pack.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Really enjoyed the conversation.
As we end this discussion on Sales Lead Dog, be sure to subscribe to catch all our episodes. On social media, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Watch the videos on YouTube, and you can also find our episodes on our website at impellercrm.com/Sales Lead Dog. Sales Lead Dog is supported by Impeller CRM, delivering objectively better CRM for business, guaranteed.